I think everybody already knows the joke that I'm going to make in this video, but church ordered to silence bells after 150 years following one complaint. A single complaint. You know, something that is, I see, is quite iconic for our country is the church bells. You know, I live in a little village. I like hearing the church bells, right? Even though I don't go to church. I don't know. It's like, see, when I'm sitting out in the garden, you know, gardening, planting my tomatoes and stuff like that, and I hear the church bells when I live in like a nice little village, it gives me this, here in the Shire, life is, there is not a single Jew inside. It's like that, right? It's a nice feeling. Even though I'm not Christian, I like it. I like hearing the church bells because it's what I grew up with and it's what I've always known. But one little fucking freedom botherer makes a single fucking complaint and it's all got to get shut down. The church was issued a noise abatement notice by the council and a £2,000 bill to keep the bells quiet. It's an absolute fucking joke. That's beautiful. I like the old churches. See how that granite brick? I think it's granite. That I like that. Although there is a slight issue with granite and radioactivity, but don't worry about it. It looks nice. Where was I? A church has been forced to silence its bells after the parish council was handed a noise ban when one villager complained, and I think the other villagers should get that prick fucking kicked out. The clock at John the Baptist Church in Witheridge, North Devon, rang every 15 minutes for more than 150 years. That is taking the piss a little bit. That's a lot. Like I hear it at mass. That's when I hear it. But the ding dong began when a homeowner grew tired of the noise and complained to North Devon Council, which served the parish council with a noise abatement notice. The bells were silenced until all parties could reach a truce. Residents set up a change.org petition which garnered 356 signatures in 2 days. Well, 1 versus 356. I love democracy now. But yeah. Like, see if everyone else in the village is like, well, no, like, we like the bells, we want the bells to stay. But then the council are going, oh, this one person, though, what they want matters above what everybody else in the community wants. There is a trend of that happening all over this nation, isn't there? Isn't there? It's always weirdly, the government will always side with whatever side seeks to destroy culture. Have you noticed? Or whatever side gives them more power. Have you noticed this? I've noticed this. I've noticed a lot of fucking things recently, which served. We've just read that part. Residents, I've also just read that part. On Friday, after more than 2 months of quiet, the bells were switched back on, but only during the day. Thanks to a new £2,000 noise silencing device, the chimes only ring out every 15 minutes until 11 p.m, before starting again at 7 a.m. Jackie Harvey, chairman of the Witheridge Parish Council, said, "We were served an abatement notice and there was no way we could appeal, so it was just a question of closing the clock down." So it's a case of like every 15 minutes, I would say, is, especially if it was all night, it's a bit too much. Like, the bells chiming every hour is fine, or the bells chiming, letting everyone know it's time for mass, which was necessary back in the day when, you know, no one had watches or anything like that. You know, no one was walking around with a fucking psycho on their arm or anything like that. You know, the townspeople had to be reminded, you know, ding ding, mass time. You know, the priest would sit outside waiting for everybody to get in, you know. Better days. But anyway, yeah, every 15 minutes I would say is egregious. I would say that that's pretty egregious, especially if it was all night. It was announced in church and people were furious that the clock had to be stopped. It's like taking away an icon. We are using parish council money, which we could use on other things, which is a problem. Now, the way I see it is, if the majority of people in the village are like, no, we like the bells, we want to keep the bells every 15 minutes, fine. That's what the community want. I think communities should be able to decide what happens to them. Like, basically, who should decide communities? The people living there. Right? That's the way that it should be. We like the bells, all right, then keep your bells. The townspeople have spoken. Right? Why can't things be like that? Because that takes the power away from the government and into the hands of the people. That's why things can't be like that. It's ratepayers' money, and we are really upset about it. Jan Spear, a 78-year-old retired resident who has lived in the village for 20 years, said the money was unnecessary. What concerns me is the parish council have paid £2,000, which has to come from somewhere, she said. If they're using money to pay for the silencer, that's £2,000 less that will be spent on the village. It amazes me that it is allowed to happen. If you don't like the bells, buy yourself some earmuffs, which, yeah, you know what, good point. I think the whole thing is absolutely pointless. The church has always been the centre of village life. It's reassuring to hear it when you're out walking, or if you wake up in the night, it's nice to hear them. It's a tradition that's been going on since the church was built. It's absolutely beyond comprehension that anyone would complain about that. The grade 1 listed church bells were the subject of a single complaint, according to the parish council. A notice was served by the council, and the bells stopped on January 5th, local said, leaving the vicar disappointed. Local said it forced them to silence the clock until they found out a way to stop it overnight. The resident who initially complained about the clock has reportedly moved village since the complaint. Local said, leaving some... Well, the person's gone! They're fucking gone. They don't. I hope they get chased out. I hope they get fucking chased out. Gatekeeping your community is a very good thing. You know, I want people to have freedom of association, but I also want them to have freedom of disassociation, right? If the person's left, then there's no problem anymore. Drop the case. That is amazing that they're still pursuing this, even after the fucking freedom botherers left. David Gailey, 75-year-old retired musician and physicist and resident of Witheridge, started the petition to prevent the bells being silenced. He added, "We've been able to hear it chime in the dead of night. It's fantastic and atmospheric." Well, maybe it depends how loud the bells are. It depends how loud. Like, our bells are fucking loud, man, because they alert the whole village. Oh, God is calling. Fucking get up out your bed. Man, like, yeah, our bells are loud. Maybe these ones weren't, and it was just a nice little chime. I don't know. I would need to hear it. But again, even if I think it's loud, if the residents who live there enjoy it, then that's what counts. That's what matters. They have more say in it than I do. Loads of residents speak about being awake in the night and hearing the comforting sound of the bell. If somebody lived near Big Ben and they decided they didn't like the noise, they wouldn't be able to do anything about it. It's just the unfairness of one person controlling what the rest of the whole village has been used to for years. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? The clock has been ticking away. John Harris, the 82-year-old organist at St. John the Baptist Church in Witheridge, said, "The bells are a lovely chime, a typical clock sound with a beautiful ring, just like an ordinary clock. They were cheerful with a lovely tone. To my mind, the whole thing was stupid. The clock was fitted with a silencing device which cost the parish council over £2,000, which the board said it is very upset about. The device silences the noise overnight, and the bells rang out again on Friday." So obviously it's someone... Well, I was going to say find the prick's house. It doesn't matter. They've moved since then. The silencer was installed by the Cumbria Clock Company, the same company which restored Big Ben recently. Managing Director Keith Scobie Youngs, 60, fitted the silencer on Friday. He said, "The problem is it's all about noise abatement. I've been a clockmaker all my life, specialising in church and public clocks, and I feel that that should be allowed to strike through the night like they have for over 100 years. It's a shame. I'm hoping the rules change so that clocks have been there, so that clocks that have been there for a long time can continue to strike and chime." Reverend Adrian Wells, the vicar of St. John the Baptist Church, said that he has been disappointed when the abatement order was initially served, but is happy to hear the chimes again. Its original purpose was to call people in from their work in the fields, so I accept it is probably quite loud, but I have got used to it, he said. "It's lovely to have the chimes and bells back during the day. The clock is a real focal point for the village. It is so nice to have them ringing again." A spokesperson for North Devon Council said, "The noise level from the clock bell was assessed by qualified and experienced officers of our environmental protection team. They considered the loudness, the frequency and duration of the noise. It was considered that the chime every 15 minutes was likely to wake or disturb the sleep of the complainant and other residents nearby." So you just assumed the other residents didn't like it. If they didn't, they would have complained to you. But no, you got one single complaint for someone who's no longer even fucking living there, yet you're still continuing to pursue the complaint. Why? Because it wasn't about that single fucking complainant, was it? It was never about that single complainant. You just thought, oh, brilliant, another bit of culture we can fucking annihilate from this tiny village, despite the fact that all of them fucking still want the clock to be there. Right, that's why. That's why. You saw an opportunity to destroy some culture. The level was such that it was determined that it was a statutory nuisance under Section 79G of the Environmental Protection Act of 1990. Fucking Brazil, fuck off. In line with the legislation, we served a minded to notification on the persons responsible, in this case, the parish council, which gave them 7 days to contact us and discuss how this could be resolved without the need for a notice. However, there was no contact. Good, they should have just told you to fuck off, and therefore a notice was served in line with the requirements of the Act. The abatement order requires the chimes from the clock to cease between 11 o'clock and 7 a.m. This notice included the appeal provisions that gave the recipient 21 days to appeal if they believed there were grounds to do so. The council has been contacted by other residents expressing disappointment at the silencing of the clock bells. However, most of these were not in close proximity to the bells and unlikely to be significantly impacted by the noise. Well, the person who made the complaint is no longer impacted by the noise because they don't fucking live there anymore. Yet you're still pursuing the complaint. However, and here's the thing everybody knew what I was going to say, I'll bet you if one single Muslim moved in and opened a one single Muslim mosque and he wanted to fucking blast that fucking like fucking shit 24 hours a day, the council would do fucking nothing. In fact, they would arrest fucking residents for submitting complaints about it for being racist. They would, wouldn't they? You would. Basically, those guys, the privileged protected classes, they can do whatever the fuck they want. But if a church's bells have been chiming for hundreds and hundreds of fucking years, and one single fucking fun sponge makes a single complaint, and even after they move and it doesn't affect them anymore, you double down and you keep harassing the church. Like, we're not fucking stupid. We know exactly what's going on there.